Hello and welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. My name is Juliana, and today's Timeless Pick a Card reading is going to be a mystery message. So I don't know what's going to come through. We don't have a specific topic. It's really just whatever wants to come up for you. So we're just going to see what that is. We're going to have a little fun with it. It's going to be a bit of a mystery. And I would like to, first of all, start out with our usual brief centering exercise. So I like to do that before the group selection. So that is just an exercise that we do to center in on ourselves and get really in touch with where we're at right now so that we can more easily gravitate towards the group that's right for us and also know what messages are truly meant for us, be really in touch with our intuition. If you would like to join me for that, please stick around. If not, you can skip to the group selection, or if you already know what group you want, you can skip to that. But we're going to get into that and then we'll go to the group selection. So let us get ready for a little centering exercise. And as usual, if you are driving or doing some kind of activity, maybe skip this for now and come back later because you need to pay attention to whatever you're doing. But if you have a moment to sit back and relax and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, then now is the time for that. So get comfortable, and if you would like to, feel free to close your eyes and bring your attention to your breathing. And just follow your inhale and exhale, noticing where you're at, starting to settle into your body now. Really feeling like you're coming down into yourself, and notice, if you will, where in your body you feel a sense of stillness, or you might also consider it a sense of safety, and just go wherever you notice that. And it's okay if you can't find a space that feels still or safe right now. Notice that as well. But chances are there's somewhere in there where you just feel a sense of stillness. And just let your consciousness wander in that direction. And just sit with that for a bit. Still breathing, allowing your breath to become relaxed as you breathe into that space of stillness and safety. If you feel called to, you might begin to expand that sense of stillness throughout your body, throughout your awareness, allowing it to simply grow and expand into the rest of you. And if it meets any resistance, it simply flows through that resistance, allowing it to dissipate. If it meets with any thoughts, anything you might have been carrying with you, this sense of safety and stillness simply untangles those thoughts, those concerns, anything that's ruminating in there. It just simply gently disentangles it, dissipates it, allows it to float out of your awareness. As right now, you are still and at peace within yourself, completely and totally connected with the present moment and your intuition. And knowing that everything you need is already with you right now. And you can feel free to sit with this sense of peace and stillness for a little while. And when you're ready, you can feel free to join me in the group selection and in the rest of your reading. Okay, so thank you so much if you joined me for the centering exercise. If not, and you want to actually go back and participate, maybe you want to feel a little bit more grounded and just present with yourself before you select your reading, you could feel free to go back and participate. But regardless, we're ready to get into the group selection for today. So as I said, today's reading will be a mystery message, so we don't know exactly what's going to come through. And I will say I did pre-select the cards for each group, so I won't be doing any shuffling on camera just for timing basically. I just wanted to just jump right into the messages today. I will be ending each group with a little advice or two from this Hafiz deck, so I will shuffle those up at the end of each reading, but yeah, so we've already got everything pre-shuffled and laid out. However, I did use a different tarot deck for each group, so that will be one way that you can select your group. So as always, use your intuition. You can go based on whatever you want, just whatever you feel most drawn to, you know? It could be based on the crystals, the cards, the timestamps, just a feeling that you get, whatever it is. So I have 3 groups for you today. And for group 1 over here, first of all, we have this, I think it's like an aqua obsidian or something like that, or clear blue obsidian, something like that. But I do believe it is glass, but it's beautiful nonetheless. And we also have the Mortal Instruments, or I guess it's like the Shadowhunter Chronicles tarot deck. It's based on a book series. You don't have to be familiar with it to enjoy the deck. And I want to show you one of the cards. The card on the bottom of the deck, after I shuffled it up and got your cards today, is Clary Frey, the Creator, which is sort of like this deck's equivalent of the World card. It's the final major arcana. So you can choose based on that if you want. This is the deck we used, and that is group 1. So then we move over here to group 2 with this pink and green aura quartz little tower thing. And we have the Dungeons and Dragons tarot deck here. And the card on the bottom of this deck is the 8 of Charisma, which corresponds to the 8 of Pentacles. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if there's a glare because it's kind of hard for me to see my phone screen in this lighting, but that's group 2. And then we have group 3 over here with this purple, I believe this is an amethyst, and it's beautiful deep purple. I hope you can see it. And then we have the Biddy Tarot deck, and the card on the bottom of this deck is the Ace of Cups. Lovely. So hopefully you could see that. And that is group 3. So feel free to take some time, pause the video, really get in touch with which group is for you. And as always, you can pick more than one. You can decide that one's not for you and then pick a different one. Use your intuition, trust your own judgment, take what is for you, leave the rest, and yeah, go down to the timestamps in the pinned comment or in the description, pick your group, and I will see you over in your reading. Hi group 1. If you selected the Aqua Obsidian and the Shadowhunter Chronicles Tarot, as I believe that's what we're going to call it, then you're in the right place. I did lay out all of the cards already because, as I mentioned, I did pre-select them, and because we had some cards we needed to cover up, so I just figured it was easier to have everything laid out so that, you know, YouTube doesn't freak out when there's like naked people on screen. So yeah, so we already have all your cards laid out, so I'm going to go through the cards and then we'll get into the message. So as I said, this is a mystery message, so we're letting whatever wants to come through. And before I actually even talk about the cards, I did want to say, I noticed when I was tapping into the energy, when I was pulling the cards originally, that I felt very lightheaded and maybe a little anxious at the moment. So for some of you, you might be feeling a bit ungrounded. That could be like a physical sensation for some of you that you're experiencing for various reasons, None of my messages are ever meant to be like medical. So, obviously if you have some kind of condition or you're concerned about your health, like, check that out with a professional. But I would say that could also for me be a signal of anxiety, or it could even be like hunger or something like that. Maybe some of you just need to like eat something. So keep that in mind. But yeah, some of you might just need to feel a little bit more grounded. Like the centering exercise at the beginning of the video might help with that. Things like yoga, just getting outside. So for those of you who are feeling a bit ungrounded, a little bit like too in your head, or just like anxious, unsafe, some grounding practices might help with that. But let's get into your cards. So first of all, we have from the Mary L. Tarot deck this Page of Swords. So I can't like lift her up so that you could see her because the card does have some nudity on it, so I had to cover her up. But the Page of Swords in this deck is depicted as the body of a feminine figure with a beautiful dragon tattoo that's going all like around her body. It's a red dragon. It's really pretty, but we can't see it right now. But I will say tattoos, dragons could be significant for you. So keep that in mind. And Page of Swords to me is often it's really about communication, but swords also, they're about the mental realm. They're the element of air, of knowledge, of intelligence, of thoughts. Like thoughts are kind of in that realm where they're not physical things, but yet they are something, right? So just like the air, like our thoughts are kind of like invisible, but all around us. And so there's a definite emphasis on the mental realm. The page also being the youngest court card of the deck. So there's an element with pages of innocence, sometimes immaturity, sometimes childishness. Not always in a negative way, but there could be an element of that that's important here. And for your clarifying cards, we have the Six of Steels, which is the Six of Wands, the Four of Rings, which is the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Steels, which is the Four of Wands, the Leader, which corresponds with Justice in a traditional tarot deck, and the Three of Blades, which is the Three of Swords. So we do have a lot of swords, like air, and we have a lot of wands, fire, energy. And then with the Four of Rings, we've got a little bit of earth, and with Justice, you know what? I'm actually not sure what element Justice corresponds with. I think Libra, so that would be some more air energy. And if I'm wrong about that, I will say that Justice in general, like the card always reminds me of the swords because usually the person on the Justice card is holding a sword. So to me, it still corresponds with air, even if I'm wrong about that. So yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of air energy here today. So air signs could be significant: Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, and that could be you, someone significant to you, or just the energy of air. Just like something in your mental realm, your communication is really important here. Something about your self-expression. Oh yes, this is a message about your self-expression for sure, especially with the Creator over here on the bottom of your deck, which I am including in the message. The Creator being the World card in traditional tarot, but in this card specifically because it's called the Creator, I'm thinking of like creativity in the sense of what you put out there in the world. It could be through physical art, that can be a form of self-expression, but also if you think of life as a form of art as well, it's like how you decide to create yourself in your life, how you want to come across, what kind of almost like, ooh, I just got the idea of like a character creator in a video game, like when you're making a character. It's almost like treating yourself, your life, as if you are the character that you created, right? And for all we know, that might be true. That might be how some of this life thing works, right? Is that you've created this character that is you. And yes, what's coming through is a conversation about the you that you are creating, that you have decided to create, and your relationship with that concept of self-expression, with the concept of who you are and how you choose to express yourself. So I feel, because with the Page of Swords here on this deck, she's full naked and she's got this dragon tattoo over her whole body. So she is definitely communicating something, and she's not afraid to show herself who she truly is and put it all out there. And there's a sense of innocence in that with the pages, in the sense of like, it's almost like she's doing so without the thought of, oh, I could be taken the wrong way, or I need to censor myself for someone else. She's just like, no, I'm putting it all out there because this is me. This is who I am. And yes, okay, so I feel like this is coming through for you. Like, there's something with your self-expression in relation to all of the different types of relationships in your life. So you may be someone who either you've struggled with feeling like you can properly express yourself to the people around you, or you are working on that consciously right now. Like, there's some way that you're changing your relationship with your self-expression, or you're hoping to bring about change in that. Because we have the Six of Wands, the Four of Rings, and the Four of Wands. But in this deck, some elements of their original meanings are coming through as well. But I'm mostly drawn to the fact that, first of all, in the Six of Steels, we have a romantic couple featured here. In the Four of Rings, we have a friendship couple here. And in the Four of Steels, we have a family, like these are all siblings. So we've got romantic, platonic, and familial relationships represented in these cards. And I feel like there's something shifting in your self-expression when it comes to all of your relationships. So this is telling me that we're not just focusing on like how you express yourself within a romantic relationship, whether you're in one or not. We're talking about how you express yourself in friendships, in family situations. And for some of you, you might find that whether you have all these different kinds of relationships or not, it doesn't matter like what the nature of the most important relationships in your life are, but you might find that you have the tendency to interact differently depending on what group of people or what person you're with, which is a totally natural and normal thing. That's something that we all do. We do change and adapt based on who we're around, and often that is not always a conscious choice. Sometimes it's really just like, it's like an interplay of conscious choice and also just sometimes subconscious conditioning, sometimes the energy that we're experiencing, and all that sort of mixes up together to form whatever experience we're having in the moment. And there might be some, like, I want to say confusion or difficulty or question that you might have around whether or not you're really being yourself in every circumstance of your life. Like, I'm feeling this confusion around, should I be behaving differently depending on who I'm with, or should I always just be me, if that makes sense? Like, and almost like a questioning of who am I really? Am I just who I am with these different people? Like, what's the real me, essentially? Because maybe you find that sometimes you're with one person and you feel like you're a certain way, and then you're with another person and you're a completely different way. And maybe you find that some of these ways that you act can almost be like, the word that's coming to me is counterintuitive, but that's not right. That's not right. What's the word? It's almost like these different versions of you can sometimes seem to cancel each other out, in that you might feel like you are inconsistent in your behavior, in your beliefs, depending on who you're around. Ah, yes, okay. And I feel like with the leader card, which is also the justice card here, you're wondering, or there's something around figuring out who you are just as an individual. Like, who you are when you're by yourself, who you are when you have no one else's energy or influence around you, right? Like, what do you truly believe? What do you truly believe in? Even like morality. Like, for some of you, you could find that you have a lot of different people with a lot of different like beliefs and views and even moral compasses, and maybe you find that you have trouble figuring out what your actual beliefs are, because when you're with one person, you're like, oh, I can see that perspective. But then when you're with another person, you're like, well, but I can see that too. But they're kind of two differing perspectives. And then you're like, wait, what do I really believe? You know, like, am I just going along with this person because I'm with them in the moment? Or am I just going along with that person when I'm with them in the moment? Like, where do I really stand? Who am I? It could even be like a bit of an identity crisis, honestly. And I say that like that sounds a little dramatic, but I don't know. I don't know if it's so much of a crisis as much as of a questioning that we're going through right now. Because there's definitely like a questioning happening where it's almost like with this leader card here, it's like a turning away from these like maybe potentially relationships that are outside of you and turning into yourself, into your heart. Because with this Three of Blades here, I'm feeling like there's an emphasis on the heart. So the Three of Swords often features in traditional tarot a heart with 3 swords through it. In this deck, I get a bit less of a, like, the Three of Swords can be like very literal heartbreak, and there could be an element of that here. But it could also be like, I feel like it's you really turning into your own heart and being like, what is really in here? Like, what's true to my own heart? Like, what are my morals? What are my beliefs? Like, what actually aligns with me, regardless of what everyone around me seems to believe in? How can I figure out my own morals? So, like, for example, if you grew up in a very religious household and you were raised to believe a certain set of beliefs and ideals and follow certain rules, right? And everyone that you congregated with, everyone in your church or whatever, had the same beliefs and followed those. And you're like, okay, like, yeah, like, all right, like, I was raised with this, so I understand it. I understand where it's coming from. But then you go to school, and maybe people that you become friends with have different beliefs. So maybe they have different religions, or they don't follow any religion at all. And you're with them, and you're like, okay, well, like, this is kind of against what I was taught to believe. But I'm also, like, I get it. Like, when I'm with them, it makes sense. Like, why they are the way they are and what they think. And maybe I actually prefer this way of thinking. But it seems like it's so counter to what I grew up with that it's like, almost like, can these two differing perspectives and moral codes exist within the same person, right? Like, how can I be two different things at once? And then you meet someone else and there's like a third option, and then you're like, whoa, I don't even know anymore, right? So that is like some kind of thing where you're turning away from like all the external influences that could tell you what to believe and who to be and how to think, and you're looking within yourself and you're saying, okay, all right, I didn't really find the answers out here, because when I looked outside of me, I saw all of these different ways of thinking, of moving through the world, and I could kind of see the appeal of each of them. Maybe I could see certain things that made sense, or I really tried to make sense of them. I wanted to understand how the people around me functioned. Cool. But now I need to go within and really understand how I function. Like, what do I really think and feel? What's, again, really in my heart? What's truly aligned with my heart? And so that's where this idea of self-expression comes from. It's like, it's the turning within and being like, okay, who am I really? And then learning about that, and then turning back out and being like, okay, so how does that come out of me now? Like, how do I express that? How do I be me? How do I create a life that aligns with me based on my own true beliefs without getting caught up in anyone else's, right? So let me read some of the quotes that we have here now, because I haven't looked at those yet. But we have, all we are is eyes looking for the unbroken, or the edges where the broken bits might fit each other, from How to Be Both by Ali Smith. And before we even go to the other ones, I wanted to show the picture on the back as well that I made. It's like kind of like almost like broken glass a little bit, fitting the pieces back together. And so, first of all, okay, yeah, there's a lot I want to talk about with this quote, actually, because all we are is eyes looking for the unbroken, or the edges where the broken bits might fit each other. So first of all, with what I was saying about taking all the different pieces of like belief systems, of ideas, of ways of being, and trying to fit them all together to make sense of yourself, right? feeling like there might be a piece you can break off here, a bit you can take from there, but you don't want to take the whole thing from someone else. You don't want to take someone else's belief system wholesale, right? And so trying to figure out where the seemingly dissonant identities that you've held within yourself that don't always coalesce to your experience very well with one another, like how the disparate pieces of yourself and your identity can fit together. And in the book How to Be Both by Ali Smith, How to Be Both, it's like a literary novel, but a lot of the theming and the language speaks to this idea of like not being one or the other, but being something else, something in between, something both at the same time, not just in between, but both at the same time, right? And holding two potentially opposite ideas at once. And so that comes through in the book in a few different ways. So in one way, there's a character there are multiple times where like gender is kind of played with, where you're not really sure exactly what gender a character is. Like you can have an idea of like, okay, well, they were probably born this way, but how do they identify? I can't really tell. Or like other characters mistaking other characters' genders. Like the book is vague about that in some areas intentionally, because it's almost like this idea, especially with one of the characters, that, well, are they male? Are they female? Are there something completely else? Are they both, right? Like, how does that work? And you're supposed to play with that. You're not supposed to really be certain of it, but you're supposed to see how this character is just themselves, right? No one can really impose or enforce any idea on that character. The character is perfectly comfortable being themselves and not necessarily stating one way or the other. They just are, right? Then we also have the idea of like, there's a character, or multiple characters who go through grief, but there's a character specifically who's grieving in the story, and there's sort of an underlying like being both happy and sad, holding all the complicated emotions that go along with that to get like within one person, and being able to exist in those states at the same time sometimes being something that's one thing other than happy or sad, sometimes being one and then being the other, and getting more comfortable, or at least becoming accustomed to having two things that seem completely opposite, completely separate, be part of your experience at the same time. And it's a really cool story that plays with perspective. It plays a lot with perspective, and I feel like perspective is a big part of this as well. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of you are really trying to piece together, like, what is truly you? And I do get the sense that for a lot of you, like, if you want to read the book How to Be Both, it might be enlightening, it might be helpful for you, specifically with the one character I'm thinking of that really is just themselves, that you might be reading the book thinking, okay, like, well, what are you? Who are you? Like, are you ever gonna, like, are we ever gonna know, like, who this character is, like, how they really identify? But I would argue, at least, the way I read the book, we don't really find out, and we don't need to. Like, they don't need to explain it to us, and they don't want to, and they just kind of are themselves. I find them very delightful. And that's one thing. If you read the book, it is a book told in two parts, and depending on the copy that you get, you don't really know which part you're going to read first. So one of them centers on one character, one of them centers on another. And you have to be patient with it, because depending on which part you start reading, you might have no idea what's going on, and that's part of the charm. It's part of the journey. So I would encourage persisting through that if you are interested in reading it. But yeah, there's just, again, this idea of like, okay, less thinking, more being, right? So if you can't think your way to an identity that suits you, that fits you, if you can't take all these seemingly disparate parts of yourself and piece them together into an ideology that fits for you, into a concept of self that fits for you, maybe it's time to put the sword down, is what I just heard, and allow all these things to exist within you, and trust that they make up some kind of bigger picture, some kind of whole in and of themselves, that without one, the other could not exist either. And so it's okay for both of these things that seemingly oppose each other to exist within you. Cool, if that makes sense. So we're going to move to the next quote now. So first of all, we have this unicorn here. Pretty pink unicorn. And the quote is, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Oh, wait, I'm reading it wrong. Hold on. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. And this is from Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. Yeah, so there's definitely an aspect of self-acceptance that's important here. I think that's something that you are currently, whether consciously or unconsciously, working on, coming to a space of self-acceptance for all the disparate parts of yourself, all the, maybe the ways that you have, the way that you've been raised versus what you believe now, versus like maybe your family's beliefs versus your friends versus like, you know, your romantic partner, and all the ways that those things have shaped you, but then also the ways that you are just yourself and you have your own way of being, a way of thinking that, yeah, from a certain perspective might never be perfect to people around you who have a very specific view and wish that you would follow that. But in another way, like, if you can find that acceptance within yourself, for yourself, and hold all of those different things within yourself and accept those, then it's almost like, it's hard for me to like come to a conclusion, because I almost feel like you're on a journey where you haven't reached a conclusion yet, but it's almost like you can't really, like, I can't tell you what that conclusion will be, or even if there will be one. Like, it's kind of like you have to go through it yourself. You have to decide for yourself. You have to be for yourself. You have to come to it on your own. And, you know, things like these kinds of readings or things that you come across can help you get there, can be part of that journey, but it's not about any one person, as we've seen here, telling you who you are. It's about you deciding that for yourself. It's about you deciding how you're going to work with yourself, the parts of yourself, how you're going to create your character. Yeah. And it's like really taking your self-expression into your own hands and saying like, okay, like, I don't need to follow anyone else's beliefs or dogma or be the way that they are. I can take pieces of those things if I want to. I can decide for myself whether they work for me. But in finding this true self-acceptance as well, it's easier to find acceptance for others as well in who they are, because you realize that, well, you know, if I accept all these different parts of myself, maybe I can accept all the different parts of others as well. And you are more at peace with the way that the world is connected, the way that everything works, the way that something that is seemingly opposite from another thing is like, it's like those pieces fit together. And it's like, whether you see how they fit together or not, you can trust that they do because they exist. They wouldn't, it's like we're all part of a puzzle, but if someone removed one piece of the puzzle, the whole puzzle would just disappear. And so the fact that you are a piece, that someone else is a piece, that the pieces even exist in the first place, it means that they all fit together perfectly, right? The fact that they exist means that there's a reason for them to be there. I hope that makes sense. Because I'm just saying it, like, it's just coming out, and I'm like, okay. And I get it, but like conveying what I mean, it's so, yeah, it's a really, I trust that if you're here and this is for you, you'll get what I'm saying here. And then we have this card, which is just blank black ink on the back. And then the quote is, "I'll get there if I leave everything but my bones behind," from The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And, I don't remember exactly what part that's from or who says that. Context would be nice, but those are long books. But I always take this, like, I'll get there if I leave everything but my bones behind, as determination. So there is definitely a determination here. Like, you are, and I heard self-determination. So you are determined to determinate. Wait, the song Determinate from Lemonade Mouth is coming to me. So Lemonade Mouth, the Disney Channel original movie, might be significant. The song Determinate, how does it go? It's like, gotta turn the world into your dance floor, determinate, push it till you can't, and then demand more. I can't and then demand more. Yeah, okay. Gotta turn the world into your dance floor. Push until you can't and then demand more. Push until you can't and then demand more. You and me together, we will make it better. Okay, yeah, but like, I feel like the vibe there is, again, like, determination, self-determination, and maybe even, like, some of you might actually be quite young. Like, you might be going through sort of a process of maturing through which you're finding your self-expression. Like, I'm feeling like a teenager into an adult, like, finding who you are, like, breaking free from other people's ideas of who you should be and becoming yourself. But I say that not because, you know, you're in that age group watching, as a lot of other tarot readers feel. I feel like generally maybe wait till you're a little bit older to engage with tarot readings, just because, like, you know, just like go out and live your life a little bit. But at the same token, you know, whoever you are, it's fine. Like, I trust that you're here for a reason. Yeah, you don't have to be like young to be going through this kind of shift, right? Like, you could be any age, but you might feel like you're young. You might feel like a little bit immature, or a little bit like, oh, I can't believe I haven't figured this out, or I thought I had already figured this out, right? Like, you might feel like you're going through this kind of maturation process that no matter what age you're at, you're like, oh shit, like, who am I, you know? And you might feel a little bit like a teenager who's just like trying different things out, or maybe you've tried a lot of different things out and you're like, well, that wasn't me, that wasn't me, that wasn't me, what is me? That's totally normal. Like, we all go through that. And I feel like, obviously, a lot of like spiritual teachers and things like that, spiritual wisdom that you come across, will tell you that no identity that you can take on or claim for yourself in this world actually is you. That whatever we all are, it is something that is not defined by language or by anything that we do or say. It's just like, we are, and we are. Like, we are that we are, right? And I feel like sometimes the process of trying to claim an identity, find out who we are, is how we come to the point of like, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, I am. That's it. That's all there is. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that moving throughout the world, we can't take on certain identities or experience them. And it's almost like, oh, it's like even if you've realized that, even if you've had that experience and you've taken a step back and you've been like, I'm not any of these specific identities or archetypes, or I'm actually not, like, I'm not, you know, I at the most fundamental level, who I am is not Janet who works at Starbucks, right? I'm not Janet who works at Starbucks who loves hot cocoa and hates almonds. You know what I mean? Like, you're not defined by like things that you claim to love or hate, things that your habits, whatever. Like, you might be sort of letting go of a lot of the things that you thought were you, and coming to the space of like, okay, it doesn't matter. But then realizing, well, I'm in this world, right? And this world is full of different identities and experiences and things that you can be if you want to. So what about I consciously this time choose to try out ones that are exciting to me, right? To let go of things that aren't exciting to me anymore and to try things that are. And to also, maybe for some of you, it would help too if there's like aspects of yourself that you identify with, but you don't want to identify with them, but you're kind of having trouble understanding how to let go of those things. It might also help to imagine, to really take a step back and imagine, okay, like, what if I did actually choose to be exactly who I am right now? So I chose to have this belief that I actually don't want to have anymore, but I chose it to have that experience. So what enjoyment do I get out of being the person who has that experience, right? Like, maybe you're like, oh, I feel like I'm really judgmental and I don't want to be. But like, okay, like, maybe I chose to be. Like, maybe that's the experience I chose to have. So, like, what do I enjoy about that? What do I get out of that? What's useful about that? What's interesting about that, you know? And like, really feel into that experience and like, let yourself enjoy it. It's kind of like from the book Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott, I believe. I'll link it. I'll put the name in the description. That could be one that might be helpful to some people out there, but it's like the idea of really just like accepting and like learning how to enjoy certain things about your experience that you might be really resistant to, because there's like a specific exercise where you imagine, like, if I'm an all-powerful being who could have created any kind of character I wanted, and I chose to create this one, what is cool or fun or interesting about the experiences that I've had, that I'm having right now? And like, that's one where it can be really cool to journal about. Like, there's a specific exercise that the way that she words it, might resonate more with you. It might make more sense. So if you want to check out that book, like, definitely do. But that could be something that is worth considering. Yeah, that's a really interesting book. So if it's something that appeals to you, if you sound like you're ready for that kind of self-exploration, check it out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of you are just, whatever stage you're at with this journey of figuring out your self-expression of your identity, you are coming to a place of deeper understanding about yourself, about who you want to be. But I like, it's like I can't even say that that's what you're coming to, because it's almost like it will be unique to everyone. It will be unique to everyone where you land in terms of your identity, if you land anywhere at all, right? Like, for some of you, it's really just about going through, taking life moment by moment and not getting caught up in playing a character. It's more like feeling into the moment and being what feels right in that moment. And realizing that, like, a quote is coming to me that didn't come out, but it's coming to me right now, that it's like from Alan Watts or something, but like the realization that you are under no obligation to be the person that you were 5 minutes ago. So you're never under any obligation to be any kind of person. The only obligation that you have is to be yourself, but that can change. That can be different. Like, if you are more than just this person that you are right now, if you could be anything, then you can change your identity in an instant. And we might find that inconvenient in the very material world that we live in. People might really like to pigeonhole us. We might really like to pigeonhole ourselves, but we don't have to do that. And so you can take that knowledge and decide whatever you want to do with that, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. You can really do anything. And so that's either like what you're working through right now, or you're coming to that. This is maybe a confirmation that is where you're at right now in terms of your self-identity and like what journey you're on. But it's a really cool, interesting conversation. And I would actually love if you selected this group and you want to share what you're, like, where you're at with this, like, what's your take on who you are as a person and like how you choose to move through life, especially if you've had this experience of maybe shifting identities a lot, or having to kind of deconstruct the identity that you had growing up. Like, where are you at? Like, what's your philosophy on this? And if you don't have one, what does that feel like, right? Like, what? It's very interesting. It's very interesting, yeah. But I'm getting the sense that, yeah, have fun with this. This can be a really fun, experimental energy. And I'm getting Hafiz cards for you now, right, by the way. So, let's see, is there anything else? Yep. And we'll get one more. Fine, we'll get two more. All right. Okay. So we have Kindle Love with number 8, Play with number 18, and 5, Offer Up Gratitude, and then 2, Protect Your Boundaries. So Kindle Love, definitely, like, love, I feel like, for self and for others, but also just like feeling into the energy of love anytime you maybe get caught up in confusion about, like, what do I believe? What's right? What's wrong? Return to that feeling of love. Get rid of all the ideas and the names and the ideologies and return to that feeling of love. And also notice what ideas call up a feeling of love in you and what ideas don't. and what ideas you don't associate with love, because that will bring you closer to what truly aligns with you in each given moment. And with play, obviously, play around with it. Play around with different ideas and beliefs, and don't be too serious about it. No need to take things too seriously. Experiment, have fun, and enjoy the process. Offer up gratitude. Gratitude is a great practice for just, again, like getting in touch, if you just write down like what you're grateful for, that can also lead you to what feels truly aligned for you. So a daily gratitude practice can, I just heard, also get into your body, because you can feel like things like love and playfulness and gratitude, all these things you can feel in your body. Like, instead of being in your head and trying to think through things, it might help you. Like I said, some of you, I was feeling like this energy of needing to be grounded, and that means being more in your body rather than in your head, because there you can feel like, ooh, I get a warm feeling in my chest when I think about that, or I get a warm feeling when I'm around this person or that person, or when someone says this or this idea, this book, this concept. And when you feel into that, then it might give you more of an idea of like what aligns with you will generally align with that feeling. And also, if you're looking within yourself and you notice like a certain thought or belief pattern is causing a dissonant feeling in your body, you can also say, okay, something about that belief isn't aligned with me. Right? So if you could feel it in your body, then okay, that might be something that is time to let go of, or I might be going through a process of reconfiguring my perspective on that. And it's a way to separate yourself from the thought so that you don't identify with it any longer, but you can notice the sensations it causes. You can notice the thought as it goes through, and be more in touch with your body so that you can feel into that. And like, again, I'm having trouble kind of even saying what you're going to feel into, because it's going to be so personal and specific to your experience, and everyone is different. And I'm kind of explaining this process based on my own experiences of becoming more grounded in my body versus my head. But there's no right or wrong way to experience it. So, you experiment with that, play with it, right? But yeah, gratitude practice can help you really get in touch with the things that you feel when you feel that gratitude in your body. Like, what is it? What does it call to mind? What comes up for you, right? And that can help you with this process of identity if you are looking for some kind of direction or practice to help you with it. Oh, also, we want to cover you back up here. Don't tell YouTube. Okay. And then we have protect your boundaries with 2. So, protecting your boundaries, obviously, like, if there are people in your life who are trying to enforce and impose certain identities and beliefs on you, being firm about, that's not for me, so no thank you, I won't participate in that, or no thank you, that makes me uncomfortable, I don't feel like doing that. Enforcing your boundaries and being true to yourself when it comes to what you will accept and what you won't accept, and what is right for you and what is not right for you, which again might take some experimentation. But there's also something I'm getting here with energetic boundaries. So if you are someone who feels like you've taken on a lot of other people's thoughts and ideas and beliefs and feelings, you might feel like you always have other people's ideas and beliefs and feelings in your body, and you might feel like you're not connected with yourself, because on an energetic level, it might help for you to set energetic boundaries in the sense of like taking time to meditate. You could do the whole grounding practice. You can imagine being surrounded in a bubble of light where no one else's energy can reach you. And that might be a practice, an exercise that will help you start to feel more in touch with yourself and a little bit less overwhelmed by other people's stuff, if that's an experience that you've been having. So I feel like that will be helpful for you. And again, feeling more connected with just yourself and less with other people's ideas, right? It's like you can use those ideas as tools to figure out what your ideas are, and you can respect other people's ideas and beliefs and perspectives, but you don't have to take everything on. You don't have to try to fit everything into your ideology. And at the same time, you can accept the parts of you that like this idea, but then also like that idea that's seemingly opposite from it, right? Like, you don't have to get too caught up in being a consistent character, a consistent person. If you don't want to be, that might not be where you're at right now, right? You might be worried about coming off in a certain way, expressing yourself in a way that's wrong or bad, when there's not really a wrong or bad. There's not even a right or good way. There just is the way that you choose to express yourself, right? So, this reading's already long enough, but I'm going to read from the book for each of these Hafiz cards as well. So let's get through this. So first of all, we have number 8 with Kindle Love. The eye and body, a sacred candle, tenderness and compassion ignites. It is in your best interest to be very tender with yourself, to forgive, understand, and adore the complex wonder that you are. When you kindle loving compassion inwardly, you also radiate it outwardly, and life begins to respond to that choice. The cells of your body and the very cells of the air are compelled by that energy, creating a love vortex. And love, it's a lot like acid, dissolving everything that is unlike itself. Yes, so like when you're really confused and you're like, and you're trying to figure out who you are, it's like, it doesn't even matter. Return to love, right? Get into that energy. Feel that. Like, that's why I said grounding, being in your body, that will really help with that. Because then you're not trying to think through things that maybe you don't even need to think through. Like, there's a lot of stuff you might be trying to figure out you don't even need to, right? So that will help ground you when you are in your head, right? Like, because when I'm talking about, like, experimenting with your self-expression, you know, figuring out who you are, it's like, you don't actually have to do any of that. But it's also cool to experiment and try different ideas and personalities if you feel called to, from a place of playfulness. Speaking of play, number 18. Such nutrients in play, maybe more even than in prayer. Maybe some of you are moving away from some kind of religious beliefs as well. When we play, we forget who we think we are, and all manner of possibility rushes in. Now is the time to shake off the shackles of heavy responsibility. Go outside and search the skies for clouds shaped like friends. Make a blanket fort in the middle of your living room. Color outside the lines. Skip down the aisles of the grocery store. Rekindle your relationship with the inner child who knows the secret to joy is play. And that, again, like getting into your body, what feels playful. Like, yeah. What feels playful without even thinking about how it would come across to anyone else, right? Just like you would do as a child. You know, children don't think so hard about what people will think of them. They just kind of do whatever they want, right? So we're getting more in touch with that feeling again. 5, offer up gratitude. I like when the dawn or a tree so touches my heart, my eyes fill with tears and thanks. Whatever is going on right now, give thanks for it, even if it's a crisis that stripped your heart bare. You can't see it now, but it's all happening for you. You've survived 100% of all your blessings and traumas to date, and all of them have created a unique force field that wouldn't exist without your journey. And gratitude expands that force field. Use it to manifest a life of wonder. Gratitude practice, I'm telling you. It can be really short, too. It can be like, you just sit down and write like 3 things you're grateful for every like morning or night. Or whenever you think of it, but, you know, you can also take more time to do it. It's really up to you, but it's just like that might be, again, like, I feel like I want to tell you what that will give to you, but I also feel like it's a surprise. It's like, try it out, and you'll find out. You know, I can't even really tell you where it'll take you, right? It's almost like you got to go on that journey, and it's different for everyone, so, yeah. We have 2 with protect your boundaries. What bird does not protect their wings, knowing the beautiful, vital taste of freedom? Your boundaries are part of life's birthright, but they must be carefully cultivated and consciously guarded. Just as an ungated garden is open to predators, so too is our energy when it lacks a strong container. Be watchful. Be generous with your energy, but equally generous to your own life force. Yeah. So like noticing how much energy, whether it's in thought or in action or what have you, that you're giving away, that you're leaking out to ideas and things that because you can, when you're in your body too, you can feel like when your energy is being taken away from you. And you don't even have to think about like, oh, this person or that person is, or that situation is taking energy from me. to just in the moment decide that it's not going to, right? Like, sometimes we can get really focused on controlling our life around us so that, oh, well, okay, like I feel like that person drained my energy, so I can't be around them anymore. It's like, in some cases, yeah, that might be helpful to your journey, but it also might just be like, in some cases, the way that you're thinking, the things that triggered you in that moment are taking that energy away. Cut off the thoughts. But more than that, just get into your body and set the intention of like, no, my energy is protected. I'm not giving my energy away to anything outside of me, anyone. Right now, I need it for myself. And set that intention, and don't even think about anything outside of you, right? For some of you, that might be really helpful to focus on right now. You know, instead of trying to control things outside of you, just feel like in yourself, you are safe and protected. And that actually brings me back to, if you didn't participate in it, the centering exercise in the beginning, we focused in on like the areas of our body where we feel stillness and safety, and expanding that. And so that might be helpful for you, an exercise that you can do to get in touch with your own energy and notice that you have that safety within yourself, rather than looking outside of you to control like what's outside of you in order to feel safe, right? So that might be part of a practice that will be helpful for you. So take that if it resonates. But this has gone on long enough, so thank you so much for joining me. I hope this resonated. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know in the comments. I would love to know how this resonated and what your thoughts are on all of this, your feelings, whatever you want to say. And if you are interested, we do offer tarot readings on sunflowerphilosophy.com. I do have readings in the shop that are recorded, and then I also have personal one-on-one reading or a longer recorded reading, so feel free to check out those options, link in the description. We also offer hypnosis and human design services if you're interested, and thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi Group 2, if you selected this pink and green aura quartz tower thing, then you are in the right place, and this is your reading, which is a mystery message. So whatever is going to come through is going to come through. And as you can see, I already laid out all the cards because I did already pre-select them. And I had to cover up this card so YouTube didn't freak out, so I just figured it would be easier to put everything out already. I did that in Group 1 as well because we had the same situation. So that's how we're going to do it today. But I'm going to get into your cards now. I'm already getting stuff. So first of all, I feel like we're talking about manifestation in some way, shape, or form right now. Whether or not that's something that you like whether or not you engage with like sort of the ideologies that can be surrounding manifestation. Like, you know, I know there's the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and things like that. Or if you're like more like into like the witchcraft side of things, which again can include all of that stuff, but might still be a different approach that you have. So like magic and manifestation are kind of like the same thing. Or even if you're not necessarily like part of any of those kinds of like practices or groups, but you've been working to create things, like you have goals, right? You have goals and dreams and things that you want to create and manifest into your life. No matter how you think about that or how you go about that, I feel like that's what we are talking about in some way, shape, or form today. So we'll see. We'll get there, but I wanted to say, first of all, we have the Ace of Discs, the Ace of Pentacles, as your card here. So the Ace of Pentacles is a card of incredible potential in the physical reality as well, specifically. So that's why manifestation really came to me. But we also, it's interesting because we have the Magician right under it as well, and that's a card I think of when I think of like obviously magic, manifestation, right? Taking the non-physical and making it physical, right? So there's definitely something important with that. And I feel like for a lot of you, again, like I said again, but I actually didn't mean to say that. I said that because I was thinking of something that I said in Group 1 around needing to be grounded, to feel grounded. And now in that group, I got a sense that maybe people there were struggling to feel grounded and were maybe really in their heads. In this group, I didn't get that feeling as much. It may be for some of you, if you feel like that is a message you need to hear, that you need to feel more grounded, that you've been in your head about a lot of things, then Grounding practices, getting really in touch with your body, going out in nature, things like that may be helpful to you in this process of whatever you're creating. So definitely engage with that if you feel like that will be helpful. But I also feel like we're talking about grounding in the sense of grounding something into the physical reality. I mean, we have the Eight of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck. We have the Magician. We have the Emperor. To me, those are all very grounded cards, even if they aren't all associated necessarily with earth energy, which I know is a very grounding card, because we've got a lot of like earthy, like even this Ace of Wisdom here, which is the Ace of Cups, like this person's got like tree roots. They're like a druid. They've got like tree roots growing out of them. You know, druids are very associated with nature and things like that. I think of tree roots when I think of grounding. So we're talking about grounding something here into physical reality. That being said, let me go through the rest of the cards, all right, before I get too ahead of myself. So obviously we have the Ace of Discs for what we're talking about. We have the Hierophant. We have the Eight of Intelligence, which is the Eight of Swords. We have the Magician. We have the Ace of Wisdom, which is the Ace of Cups. And we have the Emperor. So we've got, first of all, I love how we have Major Arcana, Minor Arcana, Major Arcana, Minor Arcana, Major Arcana. I feel like there's something very orderly about this energy and about you. And so there may be for some of you, you might be working with or working to create a very grounded plan for certain things that you're looking to bring about. Like you are, whether you're into like magical things or not, or law of assumption or whatever, you might be looking to ground yourself in plans, in like, okay. So, okay. Interesting. Okay. So I'm almost feeling like for this group, it's like you've got two options. You feel like there might be two main ways of going about what you want to create or accomplish. And one option on this side is more a traditional route, and it might feel, this might be the route that you've been in for a while, and this traditional route might also be something where you might feel stuck in that. Like you might feel like for example, if you're like, okay, like, well, I want to make like a lot of money and have a really like stable foundation for myself, create like a stable foundation for myself financially, so I can get a house or have a family or something like that. And or just even like the way that you go about your life. It's like, okay, I could go to the traditional route, but there might be a feeling of feeling stuck in that, or being worried about feeling stuck in that if you go the traditional route. And then on this side, I feel like there's a bit more of a, it's weird because like, I guess it might be, I mean, we might simplify it to be like the spiritual approach, right? So we might say like the Ace of Wisdom, the Ace of Cups here, to me, I mean, like all of like Wands, Cups, Pentacle, whatever, it's all spiritual in a way. Like what even does that mean? But I guess I mean like a less tangible, less physical, less like traditional. Like the Eight of Cups, the Eight of Charisma over here is like very focused work in the physical world, right? Being really engaged with whatever you're doing in the moment, and like crafting something with your hands, specifically like following a process to create something, being very focused on that process. The Ace of Cups to me is like, it's like a gift from spirit. It's like something that is less tangible necessarily, or less, it's like not about the effort, it's just like the thing itself almost being gifted to you. And also with the fact that this Ace of Wisdom has a druid on it, again, like something that's a little bit more magical, or might seem a bit more esoteric, a little bit less grounded, and yet at the same time with this Ace of Wisdom, to me this druid is very grounded. So it could even be like some kind of perspective shift you're having around how you can manifest or create in your life, where you're like, you're not sure if like just the traditional very material 3D way of thinking about creating your life is working for you right now, or is working for you anymore. It might feel limiting with this Eight of Intelligence here. And so you're looking to create from a space that is a little bit more freeing. And it's interesting because we have the Emperor here. So I feel like it's almost like releasing, because it's like, okay, sometimes if someone's very focused on like their material 3D world and they're not really open to or interested in like more magical thinking, first of all, if that works for someone, that's totally fine, and like everything is manifestation, and it's like it doesn't matter, like whatever works for someone works, right? But if someone's like, this isn't working for me, like working a 9 to 5, working like as much as I'm working right now, feeling like, if you're feeling like really stuck, like limited by where you are, like you're like, okay, like if I don't believe that I can have any better than what I have now through the traditional means of, like, say you're in a company, right? And you have a job and you're like, okay, so I have this job, entry level, and then I become a senior level, and then I go to manager, and then I go, you know, to director, and then I go up, 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 right? It's like, okay, well, I don't know. You'll know, you know, like, okay, I'll probably be making roughly this amount, right? With each level. But I don't know exactly like when I'll get to move up to each level, and also like, do I want to do the roles that are laid out for me? Like, and there's also, there's a cap to where I can go, right? Because if I don't want to be a CEO, if I don't want to get all the way up to the top, and there's also a limited amount of spaces there, and if I don't make it into one of these roles, okay, like then I feel like I'm limited, because if this is my only path that I'm taking forward, if this is the only way I can see to make this amount of money, if this is the only way I can see to make this amount of success for myself, then I feel like my options are very limited. I feel constricted, right? I feel restrained, constrained. And so if someone feels like those are the only options presented to them, those are the only options available, because they're like say someone's very limited in their thinking about like, okay, well, I went to school for this and now I'm doing this job. So, and these are the only paths available to me now, because this is the path I chose, and so this is the only way I can go. That could feel constricting and limiting to someone if they decide that they actually want more. They feel like, well, okay, but like I'd like something different, right? Like I like a little more flexibility, but I'm only thinking about the 3D material world, and I'm thinking about the traditional ways that people usually go about this, and I'm like, none of these options are really going to give me what I want, or none of these options are really exciting to me, or I feel like it's a really high like risk to go for this, because then if it fails, I don't know what else I would do, right? So then on the other side of things, it's almost like that can feel, if that doesn't feel comfortable or work for someone, it can feel really restricting, right? It can feel like you might think it's like the more solid, reliable way to go, but then you look at it and you're like, well, actually it feels kind of like flimsy. It feels like limiting. It feels like there's only one track, and if I don't make that track, then there's nothing else, right? It all kind of explodes. So then there's on this other side, this idea of something that's a little bit less maybe grounded in the material reality of like the traditional way of going about things, but with the Emperor here, there's a really solid, firm foundation of like self-empowerment, right? This is very much empowerment, but it's feeling like you've got your foundation of like the Emperor. So like you are already, if you, instead of like, it's like, oh yeah, it's like this approach on this left side feels like a top-down approach of like, okay, there's something higher than me, in charge of me, that I'm moving up towards, right? So I'm moving up towards this thing that is like top heavy. It's like the more up I move, the greater I get, right? Like you're like building your foundation backwards. This side feels like building your foundation from the bottom up, where you are the foundation and everything else comes from you rather than coming to you, or like being given down to you, or like you coming up to it. It's like you don't got to climb for anything, right? Like you are it. You are it, and then it's like things will come to you, you will build things on top of your foundation from that a solid sense of self, where you don't feel beholden to the system, you don't feel beholden to anything above you. You are yourself, you're this Emperor, this Ace of Cups, Ace of Wisdom, Ace of Cups, is like working with the energy. Right? It's energy work. It's doing magic. It's like having a trust in something within yourself. It's like, because it's like, I want to say having trust in the universe, but then it makes it sound like I'm saying like having trust in something outside of yourself. But it's almost like taking on the belief, the idea, the knowing that you are the universe, you're part of that. That moves through you, works with you. being solid, having that solid foundation of self within yourself, not looking up to someone else or something else to give you what you want, but rather like trusting that you are creating that, like you have that power within yourself, like you are the universe and the universe is you, then through that being able to basically like take on, create, like whatever you want. And it could seem like magic. It might seem like magic with this druid or whatever, but it's really just another way of going about life. And the reason why this side feels so much more freeing, but also feels more stable. So I feel like look, if someone feels really secure and stable and also happy with this more traditional approach, that is totally fine. And that's like maybe their way of manifesting, of creating. But because this Eight of Intelligence, Eight of Swords is out here, I don't feel like that's it for this group, right? It's feeling like this group is not feeling that way. This group feels like precarious, almost like working at a company and being like, well, like, I feel beholden to this company. They could let me go at any time. They could fire me, they could fail, and I'm at their mercy. And this on this side is like, I am my own boss. No matter what happens, no matter if you're working a job for someone else, you're still your own boss. You manifested that job, right? You created that job. You know that you can create anything else. Your life, you're not beholden to whatever your life situation is. You are creating and trusting with the universe. So you trust that if something were to happen and you would lose that job, well, there's something else out there for me, something better out there for me. And then you believe in that, you accept that, you acknowledge that, you feel secure, protected, and you are confident to move towards whatever opportunities you're inspired to move towards, or create something that you're inspired to create. And having that solid foundation of belief within yourself, of empowerment within yourself, means that no matter what's going on outside you, around you, you don't feel so limited. You don't feel so dependent on a higher power. You feel strong within yourself, dependent upon yourself, truly independent. And again, like, it doesn't matter the semantics of whether you're in the context of working in a 9-to-5 or not. It's more like the attitude shift, the feeling within yourself, right? The foundation that you build of trust with yourself and with the universe, where you feel like you can create anything, so you're not reliant or dependent on anything outside of you. Cool. And with the Eight of Charisma on the bottom of the deck here also, like, I feel like that might involve, like, focused and careful, whether you're, like, manifesting or you're getting involved in more magical thinking and you're, like, bringing in rituals and things like that into or shifting your beliefs into things that are more aligned with things like Law of Ascension or whatever, whether you're, like, actively doing that or you're not necessarily doing that, but you are shifting towards a more, like, an openness to, oh, like, what might be out there? What options might I have? Maybe what if I moved as if I was safe no matter what? So, I'm not afraid of losing my job because I know there's something else out there. Like, what if I become safe in myself and develop a relationship with the idea of, like, again, the universe not being necessarily a higher power or something that you're at the mercy of, but something that you're working with, right? Yes, you're working with it. And flowing with that, right? And it's like, whether you're, again, like, approaching it as, like, a magical thing, or you're approaching it as from, like, a little bit more of, like, I don't want to say, like, practical perspective, but, like, what might be considered a practical perspective, even though I feel like whatever works for you is practical, right? It's only logical, it's only practical because you know it works for you, right? But it might involve, like, you might really enjoy, like, focused, hands-on work. Like, you might enjoy hard work, quote unquote, but that might be, like, what you want. That might be part of your process. That might be what you're looking for. But again, it's, like, not about really what you're physically doing. It's about your attitude towards it, your feeling about it. And I feel like you are possibly in the process of even manifesting this kind of, like, self-assurance, because you don't want to feel reliant and at the mercy of anything outside of yourself anymore. And so whether you've already been focusing on making that happen for yourself, or you're shifting towards that perspective now, or this is even something that's a newer idea that's being brought to you in this reading that resonates with you, or feels like, hey, I would like to just feel like I've got a solid foundation within myself. I would like to not feel like my world is going to fall apart at any moment because of what someone else does. It's like, cool. Go with that, right? Go with that idea. See if you can manifest feeling like that. right? And practice feeling like that. Practice feeling into what that would be like, even opening up to imagining what that would be like. Because I understand that, especially if you're coming from a place where you're like, well, like I've never lived like that before. I've always lived at the mercy of other people, or like I've had these experiences, or I grew up a certain way where no one around me believed that or like felt that way. It can be hard to shift out of that, and you can feel like, well, if I'm not like really focused on like survival all the time, then I won't survive, right? But I feel like for this group, again, if it resonates with you, for this group, you are shifting out of that mindset. Like you're just naturally, that's your next step, is you're just like, oh, well, actually I'd like to move away from that. I like to feel more powerful within myself, in my situation, right? No matter what it is. And so naturally moving towards that, you're going to want to open your mind up to even just experimenting with like how you feel in your body. I said this in group 1 as well, but like I feel like there's a reason that I did the centering exercise the way that I did in the beginning, where we were really tapping into where you feel safe in your body and recognizing that your sense of safety comes from yourself. I don't even know if I said that specifically in the centering exercise, but that's the idea, is that you're like really tapping into where in your body is there safety and stillness. And through that, recognizing that you have that available to you, within you, and not from outside of you. Like safety comes from within, not without, right? And that might be really important and helpful for you on this journey, because I feel like, again, like you're opening up to approaching creation, the act of creating your life in a new way. But let's get into your quotes, because I have not read those at all yet. So first one that came out was this, with Queer Ducks Flock Together, from Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. So you might be wanting to reach out or branch out or engage more with people who think outside the box like this. Like, again, like if you're moving out of a more traditional, or what you might view as more of a traditional path or mindset, engaging with other people who are also outside of that, who are also open to different ways of doing things and different kinds of ideas and approaches to life, like that might help you. It might also be something that you are in the process of manifesting for yourself, right? Bringing into your life. Again, with the idea of manifesting, it's like, it's not just going out there and like grinding. It's like being open to receiving. So like setting the intention out to the universe one day, hey, I'd like to meet some people who are aligned with who I want to be. And then, you know, you're just out and about living your life, and then you run into someone and they happen to maybe own their own business, and you really want to own your own business. You talk to them and you're like, oh wait, like they might have some ideas for me, some tips for me, right? And that just like comes into your life because you decided, I'm going to go to the store at 8 a.m. on a Saturday or whatever, right? But like the idea is that you don't have to hustle and go out and like make these things happen and find these things unless you want to. If you're like inspired to, if you're like, ooh, I'm excited about this, I'm going to go into this forum and just like talk to some people and like whatever. That's another way of manifesting it. That might be, you might be consciously being like, oh, I'm going to go into this specific forum that I saw has, you know, people who are who can help people who want to be entrepreneurs or whatever, and engage with these people. You could still consciously do that, but if you're doing it from a place of inspiration and excitement, like, again, that's just part of the process. But it's also like the idea that you don't have to stress about it, right? You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to like try so hard, right? You can trust that like the opportunity, the inspiration will come to you, and you can be open for it at any time. Because let's move on to the second quote here. First of all, this is the card. So we're seeing a lot of different settings, options, opportunities. I feel like that's what these bubbles are. And the quote says, stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there, or being in the present but wanting to be in the future. And this is from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So yeah, I feel like stress, you might be like, man, this way of doing things over here on this left side is causing me a lot of stress. I want to live life in a way that's not stressful, right? You might feel like, I want to step out of stress. And if you are really focused on a specific path and you think there's only one way of going about things, that might be pulling you constantly into a state of past, future, present, whatever, where you're like, oh, okay, like I have to do this now if I want this in the future. I have to do this, and like planning everything now, trying to make everything go right in a way that it means that you're living in the future now in a way that's stressful because you're like trying to make the future happen, but it's like also you're not living in the moment that you're in right now. Whereas like on this right side, this is a more present focused practice way of living, because you're first of all, like with the exercise I said of finding the safety within yourself now, it's like you're finding the power that you have within you now, you're finding the happiness that you're looking for within you now, you're finding the fulfillment, whatever, practicing being, generating those feelings within you in the moment, so that you're not looking outside of yourself for those things. You're not putting your power outside of you. You're not putting your safety outside of you. You're not putting your security outside of you. You're not putting your success outside of you. You're like, what does success feel like in my body? Well, I can feel that right now. Ooh, okay, I like that. All right, what does safety feel like in my body? Well, can I feel that right now? Like, knowing that you can generate those feelings on your own without anything outside of you going on or happening in a specific way, right? So that you can completely let go. And then when something happens in your world that didn't align with the traditional plan that was set out for you, you don't freak out because you already have that feeling. And it allows you to more readily notice when there's opportunities that come up that will help you maintain your physical sense of security or the abundance that is outside of you. But you don't even need that to feel that way in the present moment, right? Yeah, so that's what I feel like honestly, whether you're consciously intending this or not, like what you're manifesting here is a stress-free life. Like you're manifesting a life in which you're just chilling. And it can be exciting, it can be, it can be full of hard work, it can be full of relaxation, it can be full of whatever you want, but you're not stressing about it, right? It can be a 9-to-5 job where you're just like not stressed about it. You're just enjoying it. You're enjoying what you're doing. You're like chilling. You're like, yeah, this is great. It can be your own business where you're like, man, I love running my own business and being in charge of this and in charge of that and all the different little nuances that go into it. It can be, you know what? I'm just like sitting on a yacht. I don't know how I got in this position, but I am, and I'm just sitting on a yacht, and that's what I do, right? Like it's like whatever it is for you, you're manifesting the attitude, the internal state of not being stressed, of being calm, of enjoying life moment to moment. Okay, let's read the other quotes. So I'm going to actually do this one before I do that one. So we have this, which always reminds me of the Strength card. And it's really, to me, that's about taming the inner beast, right? Making friends with the part of you that might be a little scary, right? So that can, to me, be like a little bit of shadow work, but it's also about self-acceptance. It's about accepting the parts of you that you might view as the cause of your stress at times. But it says, but we're always in danger. Go to a party, meet up with the wrong person, walk down the wrong street. I think sometimes it's easier if instead of waiting for trouble, you go meet it. And this is from Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So there's a couple different things I'm getting from this. One thing is that might be the state that you found yourself often in. And I want to switch this and put it over here, actually. I kind of want to, switch both of these. Yeah, it's like you might have that feeling of always being in danger, right? This feeling of like, oh, okay, like, I mean, I keep using like job and career as the example. It doesn't have to be specifically about that, but it's like, yeah, the idea of like feeling constantly in danger because you're putting your sense of safety outside of yourself, relying on society to give it to you, friends to give it to you, family to give it to you, like, your job to give it to you. And when I say this, it's not unfair to want a society that feels safe, to want people to care about your safety. It's not about like not wanting that. It's like not about like not creating that, but it's like recognizing that once you feel within yourself the center of power where like, you can generate this safety within yourself, you can be safe with yourself. Like the idea that shifts what you experience outside of you. So you experience more things that align with that. You see more of where people are caring about one another, where there are jobs that are both safe and secure and also fun to do and whatnot for you, right? You open yourself up to the possibilities and the opportunities and the perspective that lets more of that in, right? again, taking on this idea that it's all within your power to do that. And so that might mean meeting the parts of you that feel unsafe and working with them to help them feel safe now in the present, right? And again, like, this is like when you're dealing with, like, in the moment danger is different than when you're dealing with like a general sense of unsafety, right? General anxiety. Like, in the moment, like, someone comes at you, you know, you fight back, you run away, whatever you got to do, right? That's your fight or flight, like, working in the correct way. You know, things that repeatedly are like, you're like, that's, you know, that person's like not safe for me, whatever. Like, getting yourself out of the situations, that's like normal. You're supposed to function that way. But when you constantly feel at the mercy of everything around you, when it's a constant repetitive feeling that comes up for you, a lot of times it's like, and it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you could be at home in bed and you're feeling unsafe. That's when you're like, okay, I got to work with my internal self and help myself feel safe in this moment. I don't have to wait till I, you know, talk to Margaret tomorrow at work and like make sure that, you know, I'm going to get my raise or whatever, like, to feel safe. It's like, no, in this moment right now, I am in my bed, I am safe, I am cozy, I am warm. Like, let me invite that feeling in right now and work with the parts of yourself and figure out, like, in some cases you might need to figure out, like, what do you need to feel safe to help develop that sense of trust. But it also could just be as simple as like doing the meditation that I did at the beginning of this reading, right? And so I feel like that's where you need to like stop shying away from the parts of you that feel safe or shoving them away and accept them in the moment, right? Like, go into that feeling and let it calm down, because once it's acknowledged, often the feeling will recede because it will feel like, oh, okay, like, you care about me, you're taking care of me. You can think of it as like the small child part of you that just needs like a little cuddle, right? Needs a little hug, right? You can think of it as like that, but I feel like that's what you're being asked to do in order to, again, bring about this shift that will help you feel safer and secure in yourself and have like a, like I said, like a, instead of a top-down approach to life, like a bottom-up approach to life where you've got a really strong foundation in yourself. Last quote. We've got this beautiful little winter scene here. And this says, "There was a different quality to the light, even only 4 days past the shortest day. The shift, the reversal from increase of darkness to increase of light, revealed that a coming back of light was at the heart of midwinter, equally as much as the waning of light." And this is from Winter by Ali Smith, book that might be interesting for you. With that card, well, first of all, when I'm recording this, we are past, this is like winter of 2025, we are past the beginning of 2025. We're past the shortest day of the year, and if you're watching around that time or around that time in a different year, whatever it is, that might be a sign for you of like, if you've been feeling like you're sort of excavating some of these old belief systems and stuff, like you've been dealing with this kind of theme and there's a lot that's been coming up for you, that you're in that winter mode where like you might be dealing with things like shadow work where like, again, you're excavating, you're preparing things for the spring, so things can blossom, but you might be in a winter phase, right? You might be in a more dormant phase. You might feel like you need more rest, you need more relaxation, you need more time to go within. So that might be really relevant for you because that might be the season that you're literally physically in and your body is responding to that. But it also might just be like that's a phase that you're currently in. You're in this winter phase where you're like sort of coming to a place of turning within, turning into yourself. And that is creating and preparing the ground for the opportunity to then turn that energy that you're restoring within yourself outward to create more new things. Because again, like this is all about creation to me, about a life that you're creating for yourself. And so it's letting you know that it's normal to have a winter phase. You don't have to be on all the time. And in fact, you might be wanting to create the internal safety and external safety to go through different phases in your life and to feel comfortable being like, oh, you know what? I'm feeling like I need more rest and relaxation. I need to go within now. I don't need to be out and about out here doing all this stuff. I'm safe to to dial it back a bit. And then also safe to, when you feel really inspired and you're ready to go and you're feeling ready to create more, you're like, you hit the ground running, you get back out there and you're like, okay, I'm rested, I'm restored. This is my springtime, this is my summer, I'm out here, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is, again, it's about creating that for yourself. And the reason that this message is coming up will vary for everyone. Maybe you're in the midst of creating this shift for yourself. Maybe this is an idea that you're being presented with because it's an option of how you could shift your life. It's an option of where you could go. It's something that maybe you haven't considered, or you haven't been sure whether you're going to shift towards this kind of mindset or not. But this is like being offered to you as a possibility, as like, hey, it's, if you want to live a more stress-free life, if you want to live from a more confident place within yourself, if you've been feeling restricted in your situation in some way or other, you've been feeling at the mercy of the world outside of you, this is an opportunity to shift that within you. And you'll create that outside of you, whether you're creating that shift inside of you so that you have a different perspective on the life that you already have, or maybe that shift inside of you will also create changes outside in your world around you as well that you'll feel comfortable taking because you've had that internal shift that makes you feel secure and safe to take, a new opportunity to go on a different path, take a different route, something like that. You know what I mean? Cool. So, this is a lot of talking. All right. So, as I said I think I said in the intro, I'm going to get some, just a few Hafiz cards for closing advice. Just anything that you might need to hear in addition to this message, advice that might be helpful for you in this process. Let's see. So Hafiz, what wisdom have you got for us? Okay, yeah, we'll take that. And yeah, we'll take the 3. Okay, so we got 5 with offer up gratitude. That also came out in group 1. We got 10 with move forward. And we've got practice tenderness with number 32, which also simplifies to a 5. So 2 5s and a 10. So we've got lots of growth energy here. So growth, that makes sense. Ace of Pentacles, growth. I think you're just going through a cycle of growth and you're kind of being offered the opportunity to grow in a certain way. And it's like, you could take it or not take it, but it's like, yeah, this is open to you now, right? This is a way that you can live your life. This is either you're growing it, you're in the process of growing it, or you have the option to grow in this direction. And you always have the option, Like, life is what you make it. Just got Hannah Montana. Life's what you make it, so let's make it rock. Lots of Disney Channel songs coming through. A Disney Channel song came through in group 1 as well, so maybe you might be my generation. Might have grown up watching Disney Channel. Just for those of you who know. Okay. Yeah, anyway, growth energy with the 5s, and then 1 with the 10 over here is like the end of a cycle into the beginning of a new cycle. Yeah, so you're entering a new phase of life, really. And you have the option and opportunity to shift in a way that will create, like, I don't know, it's like the difference between like almost like there's like more darkness over here versus more light and growth, and it's really like, again, like it might seem like, oh, bad option, good option. It's more like whatever you feel is more freeing, and what you feel is good and what you feel aligned with, right? And again, over here, the part that makes me feel like you're not aligned with something that's a little bit with the old way of like putting your power outside of yourself is this 8 of intelligence. Like, it's too constrictive for you. And it's, again, it comes down to your perspective, your mental realm. And so it starts with a perspective shift. Creating this new life, creating a new situation for yourself starts with changing the situation within yourself. And this is something that you're ready to do if that's what you want to do. So yeah, we've got offer up gratitude, move forward and practice tenderness. Offer up gratitude practices, really powerful, like getting in touch with the feeling of gratitude, what it feels like in your body. And that's just, it gets you into just a more relaxed state immediately. So if you're looking to bring more of that relaxation into your life, more of that freedom into your life, seeing where you're already grateful and have gratitude for things in your life and feeling that and letting yourself just freely feel that, it might be a really powerful practice in shifting your perspective, right? You don't have to necessarily think your way through it. You can feel your way through it. So let's read this. We have 5 with offer up gratitude. I like when the dawn or a tree so touches my heart, my eyes fill with tears and thanks. Whatever is going on right now, give thanks for it. Even if it's a crisis that stripped your heart bare, you can't see it now, but it's all happening for you. You survived 100% of all your blessings and traumas to date, and all of them have created a unique force field that wouldn't exist without your journey. And gratitude expands that force field. Use it to manifest a life of wonder. Manifesting a life of wonder. Yeah. Not all these talk about like manifesting life, but see, that's what we're about here. And the really important thing about giving thanks for things like even things that seem like a crisis, it goes along with the idea of like when you are in a creator mode where you're feeling really solid in yourself and you're confident in what you're creating for yourself and you know how to give yourself the feeling that you want to have in the moment, then when you're like manifesting a better financial situation, if something happens like you lose your job, you are less likely to see that as a crisis. That doesn't mean that you don't go through like the normal human emotions that you might have. You might, and it's also being able to accept and have space for those emotions, to feel them and not get too caught up in them that you can't move through them and then, come back to yourself and keep going. But it's like the idea that like things that happen in your physical world they don't have to be your story or become part of your story, or like you don't have to see those things as an interruption of your manifestation, whatever you're creating. Like if you lose your job and you're looking for more money, you can see that as, oh, okay, so there's something else, that this is an opportunity for me to create more money by finding a new job that will give me that money. Or there's a new option, a new inspiration, a new path that I can take. The universe is just getting this old thing out of the way so I can bring in the new, right? And so having that perspective shift allows you to more calmly move through things that might have traditionally been seen as a crisis, right? And so you're not thinking so quote unquote traditionally anymore. And I keep saying that, but that might be the way that you think of it in terms of like the traditional way versus the alternative way of life, for lack of a better term. Like it's very simplistic, I feel like, but that might be like the easiest way to put it, right? Yeah, and so practicing gratitude, and maybe even for those of you for whom this resonates, practicing gratitude for things that you might not immediately like see as things that you could have gratitude for, that might help you shift your perspective and feel stronger in yourself and practice being confident in the path that you're creating, and practice not needing to control or know the path and what it's going to look like, but trusting that everything that happens along the path is part of the path, is part of your creation, right? Again, feeling like you're like not at the mercy of the universe, but you're working with it and it's working with you. So everything that happens is part of that process, right? So 10 with move forward. Tell me, dear, when are you not a river ever moving forward, needing to empty into the sky, into God? The swirls and eddies of the mind are easy to get caught up in, and soon your whole life can feel stuck. That 8 of intelligence, 8 of swords. Loosen your rigid thoughts, let go of the need to be right or even to be understood. God understands you better than you understand yourself. Let that be enough for now and move forward into that peace like a river. Yeah, which I feel like describes just what I was saying about like flowing through life, like right with this Ace of Cups, like flowing, like water flowing, like letting the universe flow through you and trusting that it's flowing with you, like you're creating what you want and you're going with the flow. Yeah, like as opposed to feeling stuck in your thoughts, stuck in your head, trying to force things, create things from a space of like logicking through things first and having a strict path or whatever. It's like flowing with life so that like, the river bends and it curves, but if you're going with that flow, then it'll take you where you need to go. You don't need to see every bend and curve. You're on the river already. So trusting that you're on the river and it's working with you, it's bringing you where you want to go, and you in the meantime get to enjoy the ride. And then 32 with practice tenderness. Tenderness is what I am when my heart governs and I realize how much so many in this world have suffered. It is in your best interest to be very tender with yourself and with all of life. Vulnerability doesn't keep us safe, but it does keep us open, and an open heart is one of the strongest, most powerful tools in the world. Cultivate a practice of self-compassion and tenderness towards all of life in order to become more like the friend who created you. Yeah, so this is what I was saying as well with like having an open heart towards even the things that happen that might seem like crises. It's like not like shutting yourself off to them where you're like, I'm not even going to look at that, or I don't want to engage with that, or that's bad, so I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. It's more like engaging more compassionately and patiently with the things that do happen, where if something happens and it's difficult for you, if you have emotions around it, if it's, inspires certain kinds of grief and things within you, it's like having compassion for that, inviting that in and flowing with that experience, allowing that to flow through you, flowing with that, having warmth and compassion for it and for yourself and for whatever's happening, whatever's going on around you. It's like sometimes, you feel like in order to create a more stress-free life, you have to like get rid of all the things that might cause you stress. And it's like, it's more like changing your relationship with those things, changing your relationship with your emotional reactions to things so that you're not as resistant to things coming up, because you can make it through it, you can flow with that. Finding a deeper relationship with life where you accept more parts of it with compassion, right? Even the things that might on the surface you might resist, you might be afraid of, it's like, can I step towards that with compassion? Can I move towards that person, that feeling with compassion, right? And it's like fostering a tenderness with everything that happens with life and with yourself. So that, and also I just got the idea of like, again, moving back to like the job example, but like creating a life where you invite tenderness from other people and you give tenderness yourself in a way that like maybe, again, if we're going with the job example, you might feel like in a very corporate workspace, there's not a lot of room for tenderness, for example, or like whatever like mentality that you've been surrounded by or surrounded in doesn't leave room for tenderness, because again, it's like very survival, very like I don't have time to have compassion with myself and others because I've got to go, I got to get this done, right? But it's like moving into like, well, I want more tenderness. I want that. I want to feel that with myself, for other people. I want to look at life with more compassion. I want to look at other people with more compassion. I want to experience more compassion. It's like practicing that in the moment, right? With whatever's coming up, with whatever's going on. And so that will help you create more of that within yourself. And so experience more of that outside of yourself as well. But that might be for those of you who are really wanting to shift into something where you're like, I feel like a lot of you just like need like rest. You're like, I want a more restful situation in life. That's totally open to you. So yeah. And again, like just practice it. Practice it because it feels good. Practice it because you want to. Practice it because you're curious, right? But yeah, practice all of this. Practice gratitude. Practice imagining what it would be like if you felt really strong and empowered in yourself. If you absolutely knew that you were going to be fine, that no one else had any power over you, that if you knew that, how would you move? How would you feel? Meditate on that, right? Like visualize it, feel it in your body, have fun with it, experiment with it, right? Yeah. Okay, so I feel like that's all the messages we have for you, group 2. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading. I hope this resonated. Please let me know any of your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear about what's going on. What are you creating for yourself? What are you manifesting? What's your situation? If you want to talk about it, please feel free to do so below. And if you're interested, on sunflowerphilosophy.com, I do tarot readings. I offer one-on-one recorded readings. Shorter recorded readings are available in our shop, actually written, emailed readings. And also, we do hypnosis. My mom does human design. So, link in the description if you are interested in any of that. And thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi, Group 3. If you selected this purple amethyst, I believe is what it is, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading, which is a mystery message. And today, as you can see, I've already laid out the cards. I did so to make sure that the other two readings, there was some nudity on these cards I needed to cover up, so I decided to keep the format the same for you guys. And we are just going to jump right into the message, but I wanted to let you know that at the end, we will pull a few Hafiz cards for advice, so stick around for that. And yeah, this is just whatever wants to come through, so let's just take a look and see what we're getting here. Okay, so first things first, with this card here right in the center, I don't know if there's a glare, but if you could see, this is the Eight of Wands. And if you notice, there's a figure sleeping, resting in the palms of like this giant lion thing. And the Eight of Wands, to me, especially in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, is often about like action, swift movement, things happening quickly, maybe even things coming in quickly. But it's interesting that in this card here, it's depicted as someone resting, right? Resting in the hands of this lion. So I almost feel like for you there's an emphasis, even looking at your other cards down here, which we'll get into in a moment, there's definitely an emphasis on the concept of like slow and steady wins the race, or the idea that it's almost like you can get more done or move more quickly, or things will move more quickly the more that you rest, which can seem sometimes like a counterintuitive idea, especially in a culture where, like, there's a lot of stuff around, like, hustle culture, right? There's, like, the idea of, like, grinding and constantly working, and it's like, oh, no pain, no gain, right? But almost similar to something that came through in, I believe, Group 2, I feel like that's not the way it works for you. That's not the way that you do things, or that's not what will bring movement into some kind of situation that you have in your life. But let's look a little bit further into it. So for the cards underneath here, we have, let me make sure that you can like see them all too. Yeah. Okay. We have the Six of Pentacles, the Page of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles, the High Priestess, and the Eight of Pentacles. So first of all, lots of pentacles, which is very interesting because it's like we have the wands here, the Eight of Wands especially, like action, fire, inspiration. And then we have the pentacles, which are very earthy, very grounded, and also the slowest moving suit, which to me, again, feels like that duality between movement and slow progress and patience and concentrated hard work as opposed to like impulsive quick action. And it's like, okay, I'm being drawn to this Page of Swords here, looking over at this Six of Pentacles. Let's see, what's that about? Okay, there's this feeling of like, it's almost like this Page of Swords here is watching someone who they feel like who they feel like has a lot to give, and they want to be that person. But being the Page of Swords, they're a page, they're holding a sword, so they've got like thoughts, ideas, not tangible things. Yes, this is almost like about someone who, it's like, I'm getting this feeling of someone who has a lot of ideas, has maybe a lot of like inspirations to share, like non-tangible things that they feel like they can give or provide, or they feel like they're stronger in the non-tangible, even though as a page they're still in their beginning stages of something. Looking at people who seem to have more in the physical realm to give, like potentially more resources, more money, like the ability to do more things, to take action in the physical more readily than they have. It's like having the ideas, but not necessarily feeling like you have the physical means to act on those ideas, right? And this Eight of Wands, to me, like Wands is all about action, right? It's like you have the idea, you have the thought, you act on it, and then you create physical change. And I feel like we're turning away from looking at other people and feelings. Like, it's like the Page of Swords might even feel a little bit small or inadequate in the face of what they perceive to be people who have more to offer than they have. But they've got their sword, right? They've got their ideas, they've got their thoughts. And with the Knight of Pentacles, it's like there might have been a tendency, or you could even still have this tendency of looking behind you, looking almost like, I feel like it's like a past energy that you might sometimes still find yourself in the present at moments where you might have looked at others around you and felt like not enough, felt like you don't have enough to give, enough to offer. It doesn't matter what circumstances is in, or if this is just a general feeling, but there's this feeling of like looking back, and it's a past energy of looking at others and feeling like you are not enough, you don't have enough, but you want to obviously give something, like there's something you want to give, because you wouldn't be looking and focusing on this if you didn't feel like you wanted to give something, or if you didn't even on some level feel like there was something that you had to give or that you wanted to cultivate to give. And now with the Knight of Pentacles, right, it's like the page into the Knight. So the Page of Swords becomes the Knight of Pentacles, where it's like, okay, this Knight has stepped up, has taken his one pentacle. He's got this one pentacle here. He's taken his one pentacle and he's like, okay, like I'm gonna move forward, right? So the page is looking back, the Knight is moving forward. And oh yeah, it's like slow and steady progress, slow and steady forward movement. So there's a commitment here to taking this pentacle and moving forward and making something with it. So I feel like this Knight of Pentacles is you almost moving out of this energy over here of feeling small and not enough, and maybe even focusing on all the times that you felt like you didn't have as much as another person, that you didn't have enough to offer. Taking this, recognizing what you do have, right? And taking the first steps forward, even if they seem like small steps, even if you feel like it's going to take you a long time to get where you want to go. It's like committing to that journey. And with the High Priestess here, first of all, obviously High Priestess, very much intuition, the like feminine archetype of going like deeply within and connecting with yourself and with what's not seen, with what's intangible, right? So there could be an element here of like you are going within and really taking your ideas, and instead of seeing them through the lens of whether they're good enough or not, you're seeing through the lens of like what is intuitively coming through you right now. Like, what do you intuitively want to create? Like, instead of thinking of it in terms of like the outside world, will it be accepted or not? Are people looking for it or not? You're like, but well, my intuition tells me this is what's needed right now. This is what I want to do. And acting on that, creating, working on, focusing on that, focusing on what your intuition tells you, as opposed to looking outside of you to see, will this be approved of? Are people asking for this, right? Because it's like, maybe people don't know to ask for it, because whatever you have to offer, they haven't seen it before, but once they see it, they're going to want it. Another interpretation I'm feeling for this High Priestess is that I was getting the sense that for some of you, this could be like the Knight of Pentacles bringing something to the High Priestess, whether this is metaphorically or it's literal, in that maybe there is someone or something that you can bring your ideas to who will help you, potentially a woman, potentially someone in a spiritual field, who it's like if you bring this idea to this person, they might be able to help you hone in on what it is that you need to do, like a wise woman or like a wise person, someone who's got this intuitive insight who might be able to guide you or help you along your journey. So for some of you, there might even be someone like that in your outer reality who can sort of help you develop whatever it is that you are working on, whatever it is that you are creating. And for a lot of you, because there's so many pentacles here, this could be a very tangible thing, but it could also be more of like an experience that you're wanting to create, or how you experience life, you know, it could always be something like that. But again, with the Eight of Wands here, I feel like almost like you've turned away maybe you're turning away from like being so focused on results, and you're becoming more process oriented. So you're not necessarily focusing on outcome as much, but yet I almost feel like through doing this, there will be swifter movement than you might even expect in your physical reality. Like, it's like the actions that you take. It's like the difference between thinking about how you want to do something, but also being like, oh, it's going to take so long. There's going to be so much effort. Oh my God. Like, and not getting started on it at all, so that like years go by and you still haven't done it, versus, okay, like, I don't know how long this is going to take. It might take a long time, but like, I want to get started on it now. I'm just going to take the steps and see what happens, right? And then the thing, because you actually started working on it and making progress, the thing falls into place so much more easily or so much faster than you even expected it to. So like, that could be also something here that is possible or is happening for you as well. And with the Ace of Cups on the bottom of the deck, I mean, I feel like this is definitely about some kind of, like, that's very, it's energetic. There's some kind of energy. There's some kind of energy or inspiration. I mean, like, I feel like the Ace of Wands to me is also inspiration, but it's like acting on the inspiration. The Ace of Cups is like an energy. It's a feeling. It's a very happy card in my perspective. So I feel like whatever it is that you're acting on, whatever it is that whatever it is you're moving towards, is going to be something that will be very emotionally fulfilling for you, or even is already when you're focused on it. But yeah, there's really, like, this is a shift into doing. Like, you are doing things. Like, you are making things happen. You are creating things. You're taking action. And you're listening to your intuition as opposed to looking outside yourself for approval. And this is bringing you a lot of fulfillment in the present moment that also will shift things in your reality, I think, more quickly than you expect, or then you might not even be thinking. Like you might not even have any idea of how this could shift your world, right? Like, you might not even have that goal in mind. You might just be like, I don't know. I just want to do this thing, and I'm just going to do it. And for those of you who feel like you want to do something, but you still feel more like you're in this energy of feeling like you're not enough, you don't have enough, this reading is really meant to help you on your journey to shift into this Knight of Pentacles, into this person who's like just focused on their own pentacle. They're just focused on what they have and making something of it. And again, like, there might be someone, whether it's you and your own intuition, or if you feel comfortable going to someone in specific, who, if you bring your pentacle to them, if you show them your idea, if you show them what you have going on, they might be able to give you some guidance, some intuition, or connect you more deeply with your intuition to help make the process go smoother, to help you enjoy the process more, to help you really get down to business and focus. Now, I'm going to read some of the quotes because I haven't read them yet. And actually, I do want to start with this one over here for some reason. So here's the picture, by the way, on the back. And the quote says, "The lifelong friends," he said, "we sometimes wait a lifetime for them." So there's that message of patience, right? Of being willing to make something your life's work. And this could be even about, friendships, relationships, people in your life. It could be about a general attitude about how you create in your life in general, but there's definitely an emphasis here on patience, right? Like, this Eight of Wands, this person sleeping in the lion's arms is patient, is resting, is allowing themselves to be carried by the flow, by the tide, by, this lion I often see because of one of the readings I did where I interpreted it as like this person's higher self. It's almost like you're being carried by that aspect of you who knows where you're going. And it's like, you don't need to know. Just focus on the moment. Just be here. Be with yourself right now, right? And being still and being able to be with yourself is also how you tap into this like inner high priestess, right? This intuition that you have deep within you. You have to get quiet in order to hear it, in order to feel it. And speaking of that, I'm going to read this quote, which has this picture on the back. And it says, "Death seems simply to be a return to that unknown inwardness out of which we were born. The truly inward source of one's life was never born. Outwardly, I am one apple among many. Inwardly, I am the tree. And I do feel like that is a reference, again, like feeling like if you're looking outside of yourself, you feel like you are one apple among many. You might not feel very special, and you might feel very small and insignificant. But when you focus inwardly, when you focus just on yourself, on what's going on within you, on the subtle energies that are prompting you and moving you in certain directions, you're more tapped into the part of you that is the tree, right? The part of you that's connected to everything bigger. The part of you that feels connected, like you don't, like, and empowered, right? Empowered and able to do what it is that you want to do, and able to take action in your life, right? And so I feel like you're getting in touch with that part of you. You're getting in touch with the part of you that is the tree, that part of you that, and maybe for some of you very literally like meditating like by a tree or like connecting with trees, because I'll read another one of the quotes, but I feel like that could be, trees could be significant for you. Even for some of you, like if you're in your imagination, you're like, you create like a space, like a safe space for you, or like in Druidry, we might call it a sacred grove, where like maybe the trees are an important part of that, or I don't know, something with trees, that could be significant. But like, yeah, the idea of like, you are a tree, so you've got your firm, like your strong trunk, and then from that tree you can create apples, you can make things, you are the apple, you are the creation, but you're also the creator. Yes, you are a creation in and of yourself. Your consciousness, your body, your being, your life, the thoughts you think, the things that you do, the things that you make. But at the same time, you also are the creator. The things are created through you. You are part of the tree as well. And you create things that ripple out to the other trees. Is this making sense? I feel like for a lot of you, what that whole little spiel was like really connecting with your inner source of empowerment. Again, like you're connecting with inwardly within yourself. You're looking forward, not back. You're looking within, not without. And that is helping you move forward. Be patient, because you're very much in the present with your process. Speaking of that, we have this card with, life is like music for its own sake. We are living in an eternal now. And when we listen to music, we are not listening to the past. We are not listening to the future. We are listening to an expanded present, from Alan Watts as well. These are both Alan Watts quotes. And yeah, being in the present moment with whatever you're creating prevents you from falling prey to like that comparison, right? That imposter syndrome, that what I'm doing isn't good enough because look at what someone else did. That's way better, right? It's like that can really, I'm getting the like example of someone who, like if you are a musician, right? Or you like creating music. So, and you love listening to music, but you know, maybe you listen to a lot of music and you're like, oh man, I could never create anything like that. And you create your own song and you're like, oh, but it's not as good as that, right? And so you don't put it out there. You don't keep making things. But if you were creating music not in a vacuum, because obviously like a lot of us, we get our inspiration from the things that we've already heard. But like imagine that you didn't have all these other songs to compare your music to. Maybe it's just coming to you out of like the spontaneous inspiration and you're the only one creating, right? If you're the only one creating music, you wouldn't have anything to compare yourself to. So you first of all, you wouldn't be able to create the things that you create. So the fact that there are things outside of you to inspire you and to give you insight into how you can create, and for you to take someone else's idea and expand on it and make it your own thing, like that's a beautiful thing. That's a cool thing that we do. It's awesome that there's all these people creating. But like also, if it was just you and you just got these things spontaneously and you put it out there, you would be, but you still enjoyed the process of creation, like you wouldn't be thinking about, oh, is this good enough? Oh no, this is not as good as someone else's. Like you wouldn't be comparing yourself. You'd just be creating for the joy of creating, and other people would be able to receive what you're creating because you're putting it out there and you're not caught up in like, is it good enough? Is someone else better? Well, someone else, that person has a home recording studio with all this expensive equipment. So like is going to sound better than what I've got, right? It's like you're really turning away. Maybe even taking a break from things like social media. Maybe that's something that could help you, because even if you're not an artist, even if you're not looking to actually create like a song or something like that, like you can be comparing yourself in any kind of area of life, thinking you're not enough because you're comparing yourself to other people who have a completely different life than you, completely different lifestyle, completely different desires, and looking at that and being discouraged because what they are doing is different than what you're doing. Instead of taking the inspiration where you find it, being like, ooh, I want to do that. That resonates within my heart and soul. I want to take that inspiration and go do my own thing with it, right? You're like, oh, well, they did that thing. I didn't think of that thing. So I suck. Or they're like this and I'm not like that. And I don't know how to be like that. And that's the only way I could, be good at what I want to be good at. That's the only way I could get what I want to get. That's the only way I can it's like, no, you're like turning away from all of that. So you might need to take a break from social media to help you just be with yourself. Because this is a turning inward is what it is. This is a turning inward and focusing on your own shit. And like listening to that inner high priestess or an outer one who you trust to work with you. Because I feel like that could be someone who's like a psychic who, or like a tarot reader who you feel like is really tapped into your internal world, where you feel like, okay, like they're already speaking what's inside me, so I know because I can feel that. I'm in touch with myself enough to know that. That's when, see, it's like the external world is there to tell you what exists within inside you in some way. At least I feel like that's the perspective that you're taking on right now, because it's going to help you get closer to yourself rather than further from yourself, which is what happens when we're comparing ourselves to other people. We feel disconnected, we feel separate, we feel smaller, we feel less than. You're getting connected with yourself, you're getting connected with your inner world, and so anything that you go to outside of you should also serve to connect you closer to your inner world. So you'll know if something someone says just clicks, if someone's energy just clicks in that moment. That might be something that your inside world is showing you to reflect back to you what's really in there, what you really want to do, what you really desire. And sometimes it will reflect back to you something where you're like, that's not for me. And it's showing you because it's showing you like something different, so that you can notice that and you're like, okay, that's not me though. Like, let's shift gears, let's shift that belief, let's shift my focus to something else that feels more like me, right? You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, we're turning inward. We're not looking to other people as much. Which brings me to this last card here with this picture on the back, which says, "Today, Blue Thought, is the day I stop listening to the future and start living it instead." From The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So you may, maybe you are, maybe for some of you, like you watch a lot of tarot readings, or you go to a lot of readers, or you go to a lot of people for advice, right? Maybe this is a time where you become a little bit overstimulated by too many different ideas. If you overdo a tarot reading and you're in that state where you're like, you go to one reading and you get one message, you go to another reading and you get something that seems completely different, and you're like, what's true, what's right, I don't even know. It's like you're not even in the state to really receive the information. You're just kind of overloaded and you need to return back to yourself. So for some of you, that could be a very literal experience you're having. And maybe for some of you even too, it's like, I like this Page of Swords again, like looking back. It's almost like looking back. It's like, oh, I just got the image of someone who's like running a race, right? And they're nearing the finish line, or like whatever, or even if they're not, they're running a race and they keep looking back at the people behind them to see where they are, right? Looking around at the other runners to see where they are. But what's really needed for them is to focus on just like, keep those blinders on, keep going, listen to your own body, right? Listen to what it's telling you. It's like, even if you want to win a race, maybe there's some kind of pain or something you need to attend to. Maybe maybe you need to listen to your own body and say, okay, well, like, maybe you're not even in a race at all, right? Maybe you think you're in a race, but what you're actually in is like your own journey in and of itself, which might have different turn off points than other people. You might have to go at different paces than other people. So someone might be like in a sprinting phase and you might be in a jogging phase or a walking phase. Someone else might be in a walking phase, but you're like, nah, I've got that burst of energy. I got to sprint ahead, right? And it's like you might be looking to other people to sort of tell you where you're going, to show you where you're going. But it's almost like the act of looking at other people to show you where you're going, it's almost like you're looking at the past. Whereas the future, you don't even know it yet. You won't know until you come to that turn in the road. And then you're like, oh, this is the one. I recognize it. It's my path, right? So instead of like, it's like this weird thing of like, in a way, comparing yourself to other people and wanting to maybe even reach a point that, like, maybe you've had this idea in your head of like, oh, I want to be this person. But it's like wanting to be that person is already in the past because they already did that. They already were that thing. It's like where you're going is so much further than that. Where you're going is so much different than that. You don't have to be that person. It's not that it's a bad thing to have like an idea of like, oh, like this is like a general North Star that I move towards. But it's also like you don't limit yourself to that, right? So when you're comparing yourself to someone else and feeling small, it's almost like, well, that person had their own path. Like, you don't even know where you're going. Like, you might think they're so much more than you are, but where you're going, it's like you can't even compare, right? Because it's like apples and oranges. It's like you might have a role that looks so different, but is so fulfilling in a way you didn't even expect because you didn't find it outside of you. You found it inside of you. Wow. Okay. I hope all of that was making sense because I know what I'm saying, but when I'm saying it, I'm like, is anyone else going to know? You know what I mean? Because it's just coming in so fast. But, like, yeah, we're really, I mean, TLDR, we're really, you're focusing on yourself. You're taking, like, keep your eyes on your own goddamn work, is what I just heard. It's like, you're not even taking the same test as the person next to you. So why are you looking at it? That's literally what came to mind. Like, it's like you're taking a test and you're like trying to spy on someone else's work because you're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But meanwhile, they're taking a completely different test. So if you cheat off their test, you're going to have the wrong answers because it's not the same test as yours. All right. Yeah, I'm going to move into the Hafiz cards now. Okay. Dance, number 17. Embrace stillness with number 7, yeah. So that's what, like, you might be in a, like, you might have that thing of, like, oh, I'm not doing enough because I'm resting now. Let's do it like this. Let me just do one more shuffle and see if there's anything else. Okay, there actually was. This one, it was on the bottom anyway. I did 3 for the middle group because that was what I intended for all of them, but then I just felt like this one wanted to come out again, so, all right. Anyway, you don't need to know all that. It's just, there we go. Okay. I was saying something and now I don't remember what it was. But that's okay. If it was important, then, if it's important, it'll come back to me. Anyway, our Hafiz cards, this is our advice, right? So we have number 17 with dance, number 7 with embrace stillness, number 22 with befriend pleasure, and number 32 with practice tenderness. So we've got an 8, because that simplifies to 8. We've got a 7, we've got a 4, and we've got a 5. And then any of these numbers can also be significant for you. But yeah, I mean, looking at this, first of all, like, dance and then embrace stillness. It's like, dance with the universe, flow with it, right? But also embrace stillness in that, like, yeah, sometimes, like, if someone else is hustling and doing, like, all this stuff, that's good for them. If they enjoy that, if that's right for them, that's good for them. They can do their thing. But if you're in a winter phase or a phase where you feel like you need more rest, you need more stillness, don't just, like, throw that out the window because you're looking at someone else. Again, you're trying to do life by cheating off of someone else's test. And, like, their test is, like, completely different. So what they're doing, you can't even judge if they're even doing their own test well, because you don't even know what it is. You're focused, your eyes are on your own work. You got to keep your eyes on your own work. So if your own work is telling you, it's time to embrace stillness, then that's what you got to do. Doesn't matter if the person next to you is like sprinting ahead at the fastest pace possible. It's like not that kind of race, right? Like we're not all doing the same thing here. So yeah, let's just read from the little booklet, all right, before I get into the rest of these. So let's start with dance. Okay, here we are. Dance. Dear ones, anoint this earth with dance. Dance the rhythm of your joy. Dance the dirge of your pain. Dance your hopes and fears with wild abandon. Move your body in the ecstasy of release, knowing that the greater holds you in the womb of its love. I feel like, yeah, holds you. This is like, you're being held. You're held by the universe. That's an important thing for you to remember. Knowing that the greater holds you in the womb of its love, and that your very cells dance with the pulse of that embrace. Forget all else and dance yourself free. So yeah, it's like, and dancing can be very like, there's the dance that's choreographed that maybe you practice over and over again, and there's specific moves that you're meant to follow. But there's also dance where you put on some music, or you even just do your own thing and you just flow with it, right? You just let it come to you. You let the movements happen and you experiment with it. However the energy is flowing, it's like you move with it, right? So it's like you're doing a dance over here. You're dancing. So it's like when you're moving, you're not like forcing things and huffing and puffing and pushing against. When you're moving with. It's gentle. It's still active, but there's something very important for you about, again, like gentleness, about easy movement. And let's look at 7, embrace stillness. Stillness is an alchemy stone. There is a door inside your mind no one told you about. It leads to a land of infinite potential and creative genius. You enter the doorway through stillness. If you seek to know the wild expanse of your truest power, or to discover the true home of your deepest belonging, go there. Go often and listen deeply. So this reminds me of like almost like the Page of Swords, going from the Page of Swords, who's very in your head, very like mentally trying to figure everything out, right? But also still very like immature, young, not very experienced yet. So we're going from the Page of Swords to the High Priestess, who, it's like the way that the High Priestess relates to the mind space is completely different, because the High Priestess is very intuitive, so even when she's connecting with her mind, it's from a place of deep stillness inside, not from a place of really trying to do anything. It's letting the things come to her, letting the things, and doesn't matter what gender you are, like the idea of like connecting to your mind as a tool of intuition rather than as the thing that is going to like make things happen, right? The thing that you use to figure things out. It's like, it will do its job if you let it, but you don't have to force anything, right? And so like, it's like embracing stillness is your way of moving from the Page of Swords into the High Priestess and tapping into that intuition. Not just acting on impulse, but acting from a place of being deeply connected with yourself. They're like two completely different vibes, right? Yeah, so also for a lot of you, you might be moving out of like a more impulsive phase of life, right? You might be wanting to connect with something that feels a little bit less impulsive, like where you know where the inspiration's coming from, but it's also, it's you know it's coming from something deeper within than either like a habitual pattern that you've developed or outside pressure, where you're like trying to figure out, okay, like how do I get from A to B? You're like in the moment, where am I at right now? What do I do with where I am right now? What's coming up inside of me? Like you're very open. You're very open to the present moment. You're very open to what is presently happening within you. 22, befriend pleasure. Befriend pleasure. All right. Like the sun makes love with the fields and forests, so can we with all things, you know. All right. We can easily get lost in the pressures, I was just talking about pressure, of responsibility, and that lostness often creates a forgetting of simple pleasures. The indulgence of a long bath, the friendliness of a candlelight, the sweetness of a bright day under a shade tree, the more-ishness of an exquisite lingering meal. Our bodies are sensual by design and quest for delight. This is a good time to follow the path of what brings you pleasure and dance with the ecstasy you meet along the way. Yeah, so, right, it's like, oh yeah, we're totally going from like a striving mentality that comes from looking outside of yourself and saying, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, but if I get that, then I'll enjoy life. We're getting very present with ourselves. We're looking at what we're creating in this moment. We're getting very still. We're getting very in touch. And we're being very, like, in the moment with whatever you're doing, which means, like, you're really feeling in your body. You're like, ooh, like you wake up in the morning, for example, and it's like, oh, it's like so warm and cozy under like my blanket, right? And you're really appreciating that. You're really enjoying that. And then when you get up, you're enjoying, maybe even you slowly, like, you take your time getting up. You enjoy the feeling of like, oh, like my body moving, right? And like, oh, like I'm stretching. Oh, stretching feels so good, you know? And doing more things that you notice feel good to your body, right? Because you're just enjoying those simple moments. And, you know, tasting foods more, like you're not just eating your breakfast just because you need to eat breakfast, right? You're taking the time to savor every bite. And maybe you don't do this with every meal, you don't do this every day. Maybe you still have things that you got to do where you're not ready to take that kind of slowness into every moment of your life. But it's like you're taking more opportunities when they come to you to do that. And that is changing your entire relationship with the present moment, right? And I would say even for those of us who can sometimes feel more tapped into, like, for example, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, it's so comfy in here, but now I have to get up and it's going to be cold and I'm going to be like, man, I don't want to get up, you know, like that feeling. So like it can be hard to, if you're in that mindset, it can be hard to appreciate the present moment because you're always thinking about how that moment's going to end, right? So you're always like, you don't even want to enjoy the warmth of your bed because you're going to have to get up and then you're not going to be in it anymore. So if you don't enjoy it, if you don't let yourself think about it and be in that moment, then you can't miss it, right? Except that just means that you don't enjoy any moment, right? But there's also a little revolutionary idea of like, what if you played around with, toyed with, shifting your perspective on every moment so that you enjoy the warmth of your bed and you enjoy that little like jolt of cool air that you get when you sit up, right? You enjoy how your muscles feel a little stiff, but then you get to like stretch them out a little bit and you get to like really feel that. So it's like you feel like the release of tension. That feels really good. Maybe you even enjoy a little bit of like the tension, right? It's like playing around with what you're capable of enjoying, right? Like getting a little creative with like, oh, like you're so used to like not enjoying this thing, but like what if you just did though? Like what if you did? Like what if you like, you know, you have like these like, I don't know, vitamin supplements that you take and they taste bad and you're like, ew, I hate them. But then you're like, what if I just enjoyed them today? Like, what if I just tried that? What if I just, like, enjoyed even, like, disliking them? Like, what if I, like, found enjoyment in that? Right? It's, like, playing around with that. I mean, and playing around even with not enjoying things. Like, you know? Like, really turning your whole, like, experience with the present moment inside out from what you're used to it being. Just, like, play with that. I feel like that could be really fun for you and could help you with this process of embracing stillness and embracing the present and bringing you back to yourself. Is like, maybe you can enjoy like literally every little moment if you wanted to, and you don't have to, but if you make more of a concerted effort to start like playing with that, you might find that you eventually naturally do, right? So it's like, that might be a really good practice for some of you here. And speaking of practice, we have practice tenderness, which I also came up in another group, I think group 2. But like first of all, I just want to say I think practice is a really important word here, because it's like when you're doing these things, like the exercise I just talked about, which is like working on kind of enjoying like even the little sensations that you're used to not enjoying, that maybe make you afraid of enjoying any moment, because you're like, but in any moment I'll stop enjoying this because it'll go away and then I'll have something I don't enjoy, right? It's like enjoying even the things that you quote unquote don't enjoy. It's like you might have to practice at that, like, right? Like you might not feel it. It might not be easy or natural for you right away, but if you practice it a little bit, you're going to get better at it. And like, it's like if you go in with an open mind, if you're just like, okay, like, you know, even if I don't see the results right away, even if I like practice it, but I'm like, I don't know if I really felt good about that. It's like, okay, but like try it again tomorrow, and again tomorrow, and again tomorrow. What can it hurt, right? Like it's like experiment with it, practice it, see where it leads you. Practice it, come back to it repeatedly, day after day, moment after moment. See what it does for you, right? And I feel like you are moving into a phase where you are willing to get down and dirty with the practice. You're willing to get down and just like do the thing repeatedly, whether you are happy with the results or not. It's like you're really starting to enjoy the process of life, the process of things. I really think that's what this is about, is enjoying the process and feeling held in the present moment, because you are getting much more aligned with enjoying whatever it is, right? You're just like even practicing just enjoying, right? Just like the feeling of enjoying, you're practicing. But also, let's read practice tenderness. So number 32, practice tenderness. Tenderness is what I am when my heart governs, and I realize how much so many in this world have suffered. So it is in your best interest to be very tender with yourself and with all of life. Vulnerability doesn't keep us safe, but it does keep us open, and an open heart is one of the strongest, most powerful tools in the world. Cultivate a practice of self-compassion and tenderness towards all of life in order to become more like the friend who created you. Yeah, so you could take that on the face as just a good practice in general, practicing tenderness with yourself and the world and others, compassion, gentleness. And it also might help you in your quest to enjoy more of life and like be very present and in the moment. It's like keeping in mind that like it's something that we hear a lot, the idea of like, you got to be grateful for what you have, right? Not everyone has what you have. But in some ways, this might be something that helps remind you that it's like something that might seem like a drag to you. Like you've got a bill to pay and you're like, ugh, I hate paying bills, right? But you have the money to pay the bill. In this scenario, you have the money to pay the bill. And like, maybe you can just appreciate that, oh wait, but like I actually have the money. It's a privilege for me to pay this. And maybe I can enjoy the process. Maybe enjoying the process of having the money to pay the bill is something that is actually respectful to the people who might not be in that situation right now, because it's like I appreciate what I have, right? Because sometimes, and it's not like you have to do this for other people, right? But it might help to keep other people in mind, to keep other people's situations, like comparing yourself in a different way. Comparing yourself, not focusing, like this is, I feel like there was an energy here of focusing on the ways that you're lacking compared to other people. And there might be a shift to focusing on the ways where you actually have more than other people, but from a space of compassion and not necessarily as a world view where you're just like constantly comparing yourself. But it also could help to have a little shift in that direction of like, well, like look at what I do have. Like, I'm lucky to be able to pay a bill for this house that I love. I'm lucky to have a bed that I can be cozy in, right? And like, I'm lucky to have a job that I have to get up for, but like, it pays my bills, or it helps me do what I want to do, or maybe I enjoy that job, and like, there might be moments where I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up so early right now, but like, it's kind of cool that I can do that, right? Like, that's something that I have the option to do, that I've chosen to do, right? So there's something in that for you. And this practice of tenderness, like you're also, it's not like you're beating yourself up either for not having gratitude or feeling like you don't have gratitude in moments. Like you can have compassion and tenderness for the moments when you're not feeling so grateful, right? It's like there's no really losing side here. There's no side where you get to turn on yourself and say, you see, you suck. You either don't have enough, or you can't enjoy life, or you're not grateful for anything. Like, there might be a tendency, or might have in the past been a tendency, to never be able to find like a neutral to positive framing for your current circumstance or for yourself and how you see yourself. And that's ending, because you're really just not thinking about like yourself as much. It's like you're focused on yourself and you're focused on what's going on inside you, but you're not thinking about yourself as this character, this person. You're thinking about the experience. You're experiencing through you what you're experiencing, whether it's waking up in the morning and feeling warm and cozy, or getting out of bed and then feeling kind of cold and like, I'm still sleepy. I wish I could go back to bed. Like you're having that experience. You're really living in the experience. So you're not thinking about, oh, am I pretty enough? Am I handsome enough? Do I have enough money? You're thinking about, oh, I'm like really enjoying this cup of coffee right now. Oh, the smell of roses that I just walked past was so beautiful. Oh, I really didn't enjoy that smell that I just walked past. Isn't it so cool how I can like experience that though, right? Like, and you're just like getting really curious and fascinated with each and every moment. So you're focused on your own experience, but you're not focused on you as a concept, if that makes sense, right? And that's what you're moving towards, which again, I feel like will bring a lot of blessings to you, that of even things that you might have been working on for a long time, that you might have wanted to bring into your life, that will naturally find their way in as a result of just this little shift that we're having in terms of like your everyday present moment experience. Quite beautiful. I feel like that one practice that was mentioned about enjoying even the little things that you might have become accustomed to not enjoying, right? Like feeling into that and seeing how you can enjoy that. I feel like that might be really big for some of you, so take note of that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So I hope that resonated. I hope that you enjoyed that. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear in the comments, how this resonated and any of your thoughts and feelings on this reading. And if you're interested, I do offer personal readings on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com, link in the description. We offer some emailed readings in our shop, and then also one-on-one or recorded readings in our services. So check that out. If you're interested in hypnosis, we do that as well. My mom does human design readings. So, take a look if you want. And thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye.